News 4 investigates Slumlord Millionaires, how some of the biggest banks may be behind the blight.
Live from Studio 7E in Rockefeller Center, this is News 4 New York.
There's a new symptom of the foreclosure crisis. Blight. Banks taking buildings from distressed owners, but in no hurry to fix them up. Chris Glorioso investigates Slumlord Millionaires.
The fire that ripped through this Bronx home last month was fatal, but it wasn't unexpected. Next-door homeowner Chancey Marsh had predicted something terrible was going to happen here.
Police department has been by here countless times. I can't even count. Fire department, the buildings department.
Before the smoke cleared, a family of 3 would be dead. Who was actually responsible for maintaining the building is a matter of dispute. For at least 3 years, banks have been buying and selling the mortgage in a protracted foreclosure. All the while, neighbors say they watched squatters move in.
The bank's story is that it doesn't concern them when there are squatters or illegal activity, but they're constantly aware because I've called them and others have called them as well.
It is the latest plague of the housing crisis. Banks that made foolish loans foreclose only to find themselves slumlord millionaires, custodians of blighted and often dangerous property. News 4 New York surveyed homes in the process of bank foreclosure all over the Bronx. We found structure after structure plastered with violation tickets. This one on East 175th Street is a literal wasteland.
Oh, God.
We counted 12 tickets from the Environmental Control Board here. They're all made out to someone named Stanley Kuntz. But neighbors say he hasn't owned this place for months. For much of that time, squatters have been living here. And now, on the porch, mail from Bank of America. In some cases, the tickets are addressed to the landlords who lost their properties. But in the case of 794 Freeman, the ticket is addressed to the bank.
The ticket says the Bank of New York owns this property, but neighbors aren't sure where to send their rent checks. In the distressed building next door, tenants haven't been paying rent at all. This one showed us foreclosure documents naming Deutsche Bank, but while the foreclosure drags on for months, no one is taking out the trash.
We have rat infestation, matter of fact, as we speak, because of the garbage that's on the side of the building and it's coming into our house now.
The frustration is beginning to boil over among residents who live in distressed buildings. These tenants stormed a retail branch of New York Community Bank, which owns a portfolio of failed mortgages on buildings they call home.
I try, and no one cares about us because we're from the ghetto.
The residents insist New York Community Bank is responsible for fixing the deplorable conditions in their homes. City Council Speaker Quinn is trying to help them and thousands of other renters stuck in foreclosure limbo.
So you're a tenant. You're paying your rent, you're paying your rent, you're paying your rent. One day you call the landlord because you don't have any heat. You find out the landlord's not your landlord anymore. The bank is your landlord. And in many cases, the bank will hire somebody to be the day-to-day manager of your building. They're called a receiver. Anybody can be a receiver.
Quinn says the temporary receivers are often the ones neglecting the properties, so she wants to create a pre-approved list of qualified receivers, companies that promise the city not to let properties decline. Others advocate a more extreme response. The nonprofit Picture the Homeless says New York City should do more to seize blighted foreclosure properties and turn them over to the homeless.
You could take those very buildings, renovate them, and let me live where I've been living all my life.
Banks aren't people, and so they don't have that personal incentive to take care of the property. And if it burns down, it burns down. That's what they have insurance for.
Another strategy in the fight against blight is to sue the banks. The Los Angeles city attorney recently filed a lawsuit against Deutsche Bank, claiming it allowed hundreds of foreclosed homes to become public nuisances. Now, Deutsche Bank, New York Community Bank, the Bank of New York, they all basically say they are not the owners. They don't hold the deeds. They are just the lenders looking for a new buyer. But as these foreclosures drag on, that argument just doesn't seem to fly with some folks.
Well, Chris, a lot of these banks were bailout recipients. How much attention is the government paying to this situation?
That's a good point. Council Speaker Quinn has said she wants the FDIC to step in with its authority as a bank regulator and try to pressure some of these banks to make some concessions.
All right, Chris, thank you.